Welcome to the very first recap of The Lair. My first 5 episodes were interesting to me. It's been a challenge to talk with some of my friends, and almost like a quasi-interview style, but I'm having fun with it. And the feedback that I've gotten from my friends that were guests was they've also had a lot of fun. And that's the most important thing. When I take a look back at the amount of time that I've known Mike Hilton, which was featured in episode 1, the big thing that I took away from that was he's constantly bettering himself. But most importantly, when he took that position, it was an internship for a summer internship, and his father said, "I don't think you should do it." He bet on himself. That is a huge undertaking. You go against the advice of your father, and you find a passion and a love for something. And I think as a parent, we're trying to protect our children. And I think Mike's father wasn't trying to do him harm. More so, he wanted to make sure that his son had a job because his son was looking to go to college. Mike, in 2019, graduated with his MBA and is continuing to progress in his field. I recall those days when Mike and I worked together back at Fixmo. And Mike and I talked about a lot of things. I mean, Mike is always going to be someone that is very much involved in the technology community. He loves cybersecurity. And I think that's what really enables Mike to be a great account executive in the cybersecurity space. He's got a technology background. He's a people person. He bets on himself, and he really only supports products that he believes in. And he believes in himself. Next, Catherine Friday, Kat. We met at University of Michigan's business school program for the MBA at Ross. Go Blue. Kat and I were in our first group together during the MBA program. And I must say, I'm pretty sure Kat didn't like me all that well at first. I must admit, I'm not everyone's cup of tea. Sometimes I come off a little brash, maybe. But I knew in a lot of ways that Kat had something to offer. And, well, to be honest, she was fun to argue with. She had a lot of good viewpoints. And, well, I wanted to challenge her. And as such, we've become really good friends. And when we had our last class together, we had to have people review our papers. Well, I reached out to Kat to ask her to review some of my papers and give me some constructive feedback. She was one of the people that knew I was going to be doing The Lair before many others, because I ran that idea by her. And in that class, I learned social capital is more than just about our social networks. It's what are we doing to invest in the people that we've come in contact with? Because if we're not investing in them, when it comes time that we may need something, we haven't done enough to warrant their help. And I hope when all of my days are done, that my bucket is much fuller in the people that I've been able to help throughout my life than when I have had to take. Part of the reason why I'm doing this show is, well, I have some friends, some colleagues that have some very important things to say and to accomplish. And hopefully I'm able to help give them a voice. Or at least I'll do my part. Next, we move to the OG BFF, Amanda. She's currently Chief Security Officer at Relativity. And while, of course, none of her comments should in any way reflect the opinions of the company, I think one of the things that she does quite well is manage her day and knows exactly what she's going to accomplish on a day-to-day What is also just a huge amount of respect. She has reached the level of chief security officer for a very well-known company. She's a mom of 3 kids. And she's done a lot of this remote. I think there's a lot more lessons that we can learn, just other than how does she manage being the super mom and the super CISO. As we reflect back on COVID-19 and more of us are having to work from home, how do we manage our day? It's extremely difficult for those people that have never had to work from home. The discipline involved is high. The way in which I've done it is I set my schedule. And I set my schedule almost every day. This is what I need to get accomplished today. I believe Amanda does that. I believe Mike does that. I believe my future guests also have something very similar. And in episode 4 and 5 with Jason and Alicia, I know they do. Jason, the ninja, Dr. Pittman, and I met at the doctorate program. And there's a lot of people out there that believe they helped me to figure out what my topic was going to be for my dissertation. Got to tell you, it was hands down Dr. Pittman. Jason and I were in class one day, and the professor was not talking of anything of interest. So I called him up. We're both drinking a glass of scotch. And of course, our classes at CapTech were done live and remote, but no cameras were on. It was just the professor talking and giving the live presentation. You had to interact either by turning your mic on or by typing. And I'm trying to figure out my topic. I don't know what it's going to be. And in that moment, Jason and I were talking, and I said, I can't believe that Apple and Google are making all the same mistakes that we made in the PC world in the early 2000s. And Jason said, that's your idea right there. That's your paper. Let's refine it. Eventually, Jason became the chair for my committee. Jason was the first graduate with a doctorate at CapTech. And I have to tell you, he's one of the most interesting people that you can talk with, one of the most non-judgmental people. He's put out a tremendous amount of research in AI, in privacy. He's written a book. Don't always agree with all the concepts, but essentially, the way I took away from his book was stop wasting energy on things that don't matter and start putting your time and energy into things that do. In Jason's mind, it is, how are we going to get to Mars? How are we going to get out of this universe? Or solar system. Because at some point the sun's going to go and we have to be able to help future generations. So I'm going to put my energy into doing this. And I think privacy is a waste of time and energy for the future. Mind you, he mentions it for the future. Each time we talk a little bit about COVID-19, and Catherine and I in episode 2, we refer to ways in which potentially we could get back manufacturing away from China and back to the United States. But I think it's going to be extremely challenging. I believe, after talking with Catherine, that there are some possibilities. I think it's going to have to be in the high-end manufacturing. What comes to mind to me is what's going to be the Rolex-like item of manufacturing that the United States is going to be known for. I don't know what that's going to be. But I believe we are all nations are in a symbiotic relationship with one another at this point in time. And I think the companies that are manufacturing in China are going to have to put more effort into ensuring safety and quality, especially if they're going to manufacture in another country. But I believe it's possible. Then I started thinking, well, what are we going to do as a country? I read the reports. We have something like 20% of our workforce has now been furloughed or laid off. What a shame. What a shame that many of our companies did not have contingency plans in place to address how we're going to be productive in the event a pandemic happens. I am one of those people that believed that major companies should have had a better plan in place. Clearly we didn't. Hopefully we will learn from these mistakes. But I think we're going to come out of this better than what we were before we entered it. We are, when we struggle, when what is the saying, steel makes steel or something along those lines. I don't remember. I'm out of cliches at the moment, but, steel hardens steel. That was it. Quite prominent in Game of Thrones. We're going to come out of this better. I think with my last, episode 5, my last colleague, Alicia Dillon, she's on the right track. She's creating a company that's in the cannabis space. In the state of Michigan, cannabis is legal. It's going to be a highly regulated industry, but I think it's going to provide a lot of opportunity in technology, a lot of opportunity for people to get into something new. Maybe it's just slightly different than what they were used to. Alicia's in the secure side of things. Secure transport, providing security to the dispensaries and to the growers. What's fascinating to me is that many of that industry are still dealing in cash because not very many financial institutions are willing to take on the risk that, since it's federally illegal, they're not willing to take on that risk. So the banks and financial institutions that are charging these companies in outrageous fees. But to a company like for Alicia, she'd rather pay those fees than have $1 million in cash sitting in her house. And I have to admit, I agree. So financial institutions are making money off of it. Why do I think cannabis? Well, not just the jobs. It's another tax revenue. It's going to be revenue for counties, states, federal government. We can't keep giving away billions and billions of dollars without replenishing. I've really enjoyed these last 5 episodes. They were great. I'm hoping my next 5 will be better. Each time, I feel I'm a little bit better. But I cannot extend enough gratitude to my guests. They are really what is helping me to learn, and I hope they got something out of it too. So please subscribe, and please take a look at my first 5 episodes, and I really hope my next 5 are going to be even better. Thank you all.